Hello and welcome to the show. I am here today on BeamNG Drive for another episode of Driven Till Destruction, where I shall be taking 3 cars and, well, driving them until they can no longer drive. We are starting and see how far they go as well before they can no longer drive. We're starting with the Covet. This is the most, I say, average of Covets. It's 1.5 litre with a manual gearbox, so it's not the slowest. It's kind of a mid-spec sort of a vehicle, and that is what we are going to be starting off with today. We're going to reset the distance, of course, and then we are going to set the car off on its way. Now, front-wheel drive vehicle. The wheel axles are a concern around here. This track is nasty, there is no doubt about it. This is a damaging circuit, and of course the rules are the cars have to be driven hard around here. There is no, I can't, oh god. I've got to keep control of them, but they've got to be driven hard. They've got to be driven as fast as I can around this circuit. I can't simply drive slowly and keep the things up, because well, you drive slowly, everything's going to survive indefinitely around here. We're going to try and get the car slowed for. That's actually a really nasty little obstacle there. When the car's healthy, those rocks pose no issues, and likewise here. When the car's healthy, this is no problem. However, when the suspension starts taking a battering, it then becomes a problem. We also, of course, have the spinners that we haven't really seen yet, and they do look a lot more menacing than they actually are. I will be honest with you. They don't quite do as much damage as you expect them to. That corner I always carry. It's a horrible tightening radius corner. I always seem to carry too much speed in. But yeah, I mean, ideally we're not going to hit the spinners too often, but that's if a car's very, very heavily damaged on the steering front. That's when they are going to come into play. It's basically just a chicane, but with a big old penalty if you haven't got the steering to make it work. The jumps come a little bit later on. Well, we saw some of the jumps earlier. We've got these bumps around this banked corner. The jumps, these are the biggest jumps that we're coming up to here. Now, a little concerned about the radiator and, of course, the wheel axles. We should be fast enough to clear this first bit, no problem. Here, we should also be quick enough to get a nice landing, which we do. Oh, okay, a little heavy on the front. But Cherrier managed to make that one work without losing a radiator. We actually just skidded up into the wall afterwards. Yeah, the Cherrier made it without losing a radiator, but not quite so for the Covet. I mean, overheating is the lesser concern around this track. This track is pretty damaging at the best of times, which is what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to test these vehicles. And, yeah, overheating, while we I'm sure we will inevitably see cars go out from overheating, I suspect the Covet's going to have wheel axle issues before we get to that. I could be wrong though. I mean, if it goes out because of overheating, it would have done pretty well in terms of distance travel. The cars don't have preheated engines, so they will last a little while, and it does depend on how big the puncture in the radiator is. There are varying degrees of coolant leak that can go on. Smaller ones means you will at least keep the engine cool for a little bit longer. We're coming up towards the end of a lap around this circuit. The Covet's actually not in bad shape, barring the radiator puncture. The Covet really is not doing too badly at all. That's going to be a big clomp on the floor, but it's holding up well. I've got a little bit of steering. It's pulling a little bit. I think it's pulling to the one side. There's definitely some sort of pulling going on from the car. It's a little bit inconsistent, actually, as to what's upset with the front end, but you know, I mean, they've got bodywork damage. We've probably got some, it might even just be some weird camber. Yeah, front and left wheel's got some unusual camber and toe angles going on. Now, no real suspension collapse as of yet, which should mean going through here is okay. I think the water can cool the engines down a little bit, possibly. I could be very wrong on that one. And not that we spend much time in the water anyway. People bowl away. Now, we've got the front bumper's been pushed up. We are allowed, if something happens in such a way that the bumper gets wedged under the car or stuck in the wheels, we are allowed to stop and use the node grabber to pull a bumper clear. Now, we lose time, of course. Well, so we waste time and there's a chance you'll break something more pulling it out, but we can do that. However, the bumper is not actually causing us any grief at the moment, so it can just sit where it is, and that is all fine. We are through the spinners, no problem at all for the for the Covet. Yeah, it's not really got any steering problems at the moment. The steering, suspension, that is all fine. However, with a front-wheel drive car, if we lose one wheel, the diff will, with the only a couple of odd vehicle exceptions, the Covet is not one of them, the diff won't let it be a one-wheel drive car. Ugh. So that is always a concern, especially because we are landing heavily on the front multiple times. The Covet suspension is holding up pretty well. I don't think I've ever had, outside of special modded versions, I don't think I've ever had a Covet go out from overheating. Normally the wheel axle dies before we see that, so I would be surprised. After saying, of course, overheating is unlikely for this car. It might, maybe. Maybe, who knows. I don't know, the back, like the whole hatch part of it is actually starting to bow. Now, is that the body that's bowing, or is it the actual boot that is... But I don't know. It's unhappy, funnily enough, really. We are now starting to get... the temperature warning light has come on. Now, I haven't seen oil overheating or head gasket issues or piston rings. Now, it will give us a little bit of time. Oh, there goes the piston rings. This is bad news. Once this starts going, we know we don't have much time. The car is starting to lose power. The whole chassis is actually starting to get buckled as well in this. It's not long for this world, however it goes out. It is going out soon. It might beat the Cherrier. It's beaten the Barstow already. We may be able to go further than the Cherrier. That's a huge jump. It's still surviving. I'll give it that, even though the chassis is almost scraping, or nearly bananaed the chassis. Can we get it through the water? This is where the Cherrier died. There's a lot of smoke now. I mean, that's... head gasket is going to go next, I should think. And that's going to pour out smoke. The chassis is now scraping on the floor through there. We are losing power quite dramatically. Is it going to scrape any bits and pieces along here? No. We're still going. Come on. Come on, Covet. You could just need to get you. I need to get you through the spinners. If we get you through the spinners, you beat the Sunburst, and you would go the furthest of anything, which is a damn good showing for a little Covet. Oh, it's fine. It's fine. Little engine, keep alive for a smidge longer. So the Sunburst died, leaving, or the Sunburst lost its steering, leaving the spinners. Oh. We have been assisted by the spinners out of them. Struggling a little bit to see all of the plumes of smoke. Just misjudged where the car was. The steering is poorly. I don't know. It was. It's almost like a little unresponsive. But it's fine. I mean, it's still going with a really poorly engine here. I mean, you can see how much speed we're losing. About 10 miles an hour slower across this jump than we were at the start. But it's still going. Was there a cough from the engine then? I'm not sure. Come on, Covet. You can keep going around here. Maybe. We can run up towards the wall. It's holding on to life. It really is on its last legs, but it is still holding on to life. This poor engine is having a torrid time of it. Alright. Fall off here. Don't break a wheel. I think it did break a wheel. Okay, one of the issues we may have now is I've got to flip the car over. If the engine stalls, I have a horrible feeling it won't restart. Come on, Covet. Okay, we've lost steering. Front left wheel has actually lost steering completely from that tumble. We can maybe ping it off the wall a little bit and keep it going. Okay, we have lost steering. That's the tie rod will have gone, not the actual drive. We are still going forward in this one. Just about still going. Please turn. Please turn. Is it going to be overheating? Will the engine expire, or will the steering be what kills it? I don't know quite yet. I thought it was going to overheat ages ago. It's somehow still living. Come on, car. It's so down on power compared to where it was. We've got to get onto another lap, though, if we can just survive. That's a clonk. Still going. Still have enough steering. Still good to try and make it onto the next lap. Oh, there goes the head gasket. It's in a bad way now. Have we lost drive? I think we've lost something. It's gone? Oh, the engine's gone. That was really weird. The head gasket died. It just kind of coughed, didn't really do, and then it gave up. It's actually parked itself on there. I think that's an overheating failure. I do believe that is the end of the Covet. Overheated and died. It put up a damn good fight. I will give it a lot better than I thought it would. Almost went out with the steering. Almost, but it kept going. It was just a tie rod in the end, not the actual drive. So that is a good showing. That is a good showing. Got hit by the spinner. It got kind of smacked on the way out, but yeah, that is a damn good showing for the Covet. I am very, very impressed indeed. Up next, we have got the Cherrier. This is a people carrier. And now, there's a load of versions for this. I'm driving an EU spec one with a 2.7 litre V6. That's the one that I have gone for here. It is still front-wheel drive. I think it's front-wheel drive anyway. We'll find out when we set off, shall we? I'm pretty sure it is front-wheel drive, yes. So, we've got a front-wheel drive people carrier with a bit, a decent amount of let's say a decent amount of poke behind it. I mean, it could be a lot slower, basically. It's going to be heavier than the Covet, which might not do it so good in terms of it's the force coming crashing back down on the landing of the big jumps. That's the concern with all of the weight behind it. It might be stronger than the Covet. We'll have to wait and see. I don't know. I was impressed with how far the Covet survived as it was. I'd be surprised if this went as far. I'd be surprised if too many front-wheel drive cars made it as far as the Covet, to be honest with you. I mean, the thing with Driven Till Destruction is it's not an exact science. There's a lot of things can go on in this, and that's half the fun, really, with what happens. The same car can go very drastically different distances, different times. It's a bit of fun, really, to see what happens. And I think that Covet got very lucky with the way that it was landing stuff. Don't normally see front-wheel drive cars surviving quite that well. My steering does not feel too happy here, I'm not going to lie to you. We are through the spinners, however. We are through the spinners, we are out the other side. Everything is pretty good. What are we going to be like across? I mean, these big jumps are... well, they're going to be big jumps, basically. We have the speed to make the landing zone up here quite nicely, about 70 miles an hour. It's going to knock the radiator out again on that one. Some vehicles are absolutely fine with that. Some vehicles, not quite so much. This is another one that is going to clonk the radiator away on the landing. Another front bumper has come off without actually impacting the car. I mean, sometimes, so we can pull them clear, but sometimes that doesn't mean they don't do a huge amount of damage beforehand. We've had front bumpers go underneath cars, we've had front bumpers tear tyres off and all that sort of thing around here. That's a nasty crunch. Front left is actually looking quite poorly. I fear the front left suspension's gone, which means it's going to keep hitting the wheel axle now. The exhaust is on the verge of falling off as well, for good luck. Naturally, that's what you need. You need to see the exhaust come off. The game does have the exhaust can get damaged. It will change the volume of the car and so on, the sound of the car and everything. It's quite cool. That's new, I think, since the last time I did one of these Destruction series. This is always a big crunch. Oh! That's the wheel axle. That's my drive gone. That's the end of the Cherrier. That's the thing with a front-wheel drive car. It's a heavy landing. It's a big impact, that one. We've seen Covet was surviving that one, no problem whatsoever. However, it already taken a fair old whack on the suspension. It already looked like the front left was one that's going to be in trouble. It wasn't in the end. Came down hard on the front right, lost the wheel axle, no more drive for that. Well, I thought it might survive a little bit longer than that, I have to say, but the Cherrier survived a lap, but that was about it. Well, for our third and final vehicle to run through the course today, we have got a Moonhawk. Now this is the, V8 Special. This is a supercharged V8 with a manual gearbox. Hopefully should survive better than the Barstow. So the Barstow is notorious for having a glass drive shaft. It does snap very easily. This thing, unless it has since changed, is pretty good in terms of the old drive shaft. It will generally survive a lot longer. Now we have the added benefit of the wobble-matic suspension that we find on older cars. These much softer suspension setups, leaf springs often at the rear for example, are good for keeping a car going. Very good for keeping a vehicle going. I know there's plenty of power in the Moonhawk, of course there is. We're going to be able to slide it around a little bit. Rear-wheel drive is a bonus in some regards. If we hit the front of the car very heavily, we're not going to lose drive like we saw with the Cherrier. If we snap the front wheel axle off, we might lose steering, but we're still going to have some sort of drive. We can often work on one wheel for the steering. As we've seen with the front-wheel drive cars, they often don't work one wheel for the driving part of things, and I've been a little bit of a fool. Hold on, let's just do a little bit of a donut there. And I've got to be careful I don't over-rev the engine on some of these older cars. I will try and pay attention. Sometimes it might happen a little bit by accident when I'm just driving them hard. We can slide it around. I mean, it's not really had any adverse effects through this first section. Nothing really all that bad has happened to the car. My main concern... Whoopsie. My main concern is the big jump. I mean, there's the same concern with everything. That big jump is notorious for damaging, well, I say no, it's already going to be the concern for the radiators. If you can't get the nose of the car up into the air across it, you're going to see problems. Now, I can't necessarily be quite as aggressive with the throttle in this car because it's... Oh, come on. Oh, radiators does survive, thank God for that. Because it's on dirt, we've got a rear-wheel drive muscle car that doesn't have the right tyres or anything. So, yeah, I don't want to spin going up that ramp because that would be a disaster. If we end up in a fence somewhere, it's going to do a lot more damage to the car. Of course, out here we also can't carry as much speed, again, owing to muscle car on dirt. Hopefully we can at least get the front of the car up high enough that it doesn't clonk the radiator. I mean, that's good. The bad bit is look how much it's buckled. I think it's hitting the frame and the bumper at the moment. So we've seen this a little bit with the muscle cars before, where the frame and the front bumper will take some of the hits early on before they get either knocked off or bented to the point where it then starts hitting on the radiator, and then that will snap. You know, the radiator, you're going to knock the radiator off, I suspect, at some point around here. It's whether that's what goes first or something else. Across the big jump we had, I'm actually really concerned about the front right corner. It looks quite low. I mean, the bonnet's up. Okay, that's going to hit on the back of the car. Ooh, it's going to hit on the back of the car, but it's going to lead us to a rollover down there. I was thinking back of car is better than front of car in some regards. Little bit of oil starvation while I was upside down. Oh, it's at a funny angle now. It's all sorts of funny angles. Yeah, it just bounced on the rear of the car, and that was that. Just went over. We'll bobble it across there. I've got to struggle a little bit for control now. The rear axle seems to be hopping around a lot. Can't do too much about that. Now, we've not really seen that much damage to the rear of the cars around this course so far. It has predominantly been the front. And that is normally what you see with the jumps, the way they are. It does look like my rear axle's being shuffled. No, has my axle been shuffled, or is it just the bodywork being shuffled? What is going on with the car? Something's very unhappy in here. Something's very unhappy in here, and I'm not quite sure what it is. The thing, you're trying to figure out what's twisted when the whole body is actually twisted now on top of the vehicle. It definitely it doesn't feel right to drive. Have we got steering issues? Front left is at all sorts of funky angles. Possibly. We're going to clonk our way. Oh, front left is definitely... I think we've lost front left suspension. I think that's all collapsed up there, which does make this a little sketchy, but we are through the turbines. That is okay. Oh, God. Come on, car. Come on, car. Oh, it's fine. I mean, this was... The rollover is kind of what's done it. It's definitely sort of rocking about on its suspension quite a lot here, which isn't great for the vehicle. Oh, wow, that's a new one. That's going to be a radiator gone. That just twisted. I don't even know quite what twisted it. I feel like that might be the suspension. Oh, I've just seen what's happened to the rear axle. The whole rear axle's unseated itself. Well, that's not good. We have got a big issue with the rear axle. Somehow it's still driving. I wonder if that was coming loose. I wonder if that was giving me the weird driving issues. Which is that being loose and making the car difficult to control. I wonder if that's what caused it to flip on that jump. Oh, it's shuffling around. That's definitely not what you want on your car. How is the drive shaft going to survive this? I don't know. Oh, come on. Oh, there it goes. That was the drive shaft gone on the Moonhawk. I wondered how the drive shaft was going to survive that. The answer was it wasn't, really. Yeah, I mean, if it had not had that jump there, maybe it would have survived a little longer. I think it was always going to get knocked out the second the second it had another hit, because the rear axle is not supposed to move around like that. Can we just have a little bit of a lift up of this car, just to have a little bit of an observe of that rear axle? I mean, I've only ever seen this happen once, and that was the Regency a long time ago. I didn't know it could happen on one of these cars. I mean, you can see it's not connected. It's connected by, I think it's only the leaf spring is connecting it now. I mean, look at that. Okay, the drive shaft's gone, but technically drive shaft failure put that car out. Drive shaft failure caused by almost complete rear axle failure going on there. That is... I mean, that's the most spectacular failure of the series so far, I have to say. I've never seen a Moonhawk do that. As I said, I've seen a Regency, but I've absolutely never seen a Moonhawk do that one before. So, on to our leaderboard, and we have a Covet leading the way in a Destruction series. I believe this is the first time ever that has happened. The Covet leads the way 5.2 miles with that overheating engine, although it was quite poorly up until then. The Moonhawk will go into fourth. It does beat the Barstow. It had a much more spectacular failure than the Barstow, I will say that much, with the whole rear end pretty much giving up, but it cannot live for as long as either the Cherrier or the Sunburst, for that matter. And the Kashira, well, that goes into 6th at only 1.9 miles. It just made it onto a second lap, but that wheel axle letting go on the big jump would, kill that car off relatively quickly. This is a tough circuit. It is definitely destructive. But we've had some very interesting failures already. I look forward to seeing what else is going to happen to cars as they try and drive around here. That, though, is going to be it for this video. As ever, I shall link all the mods used in the description if you want to have a go with downloading them and have a play around with them. I do very much recommend this circuit, and the Kashira is a very, very cool vehicle. Shall be it from me, though. Until next time, goodbye.